All right, so let's jump in. So what I want to review today is the top 3 questions that we've gotten from residential sales reps in 2023. There were some real consistent ones that we got over and over again. Number 2, discuss the top SolarEdge news and announcements this year. We had some really exciting stuff happen. And then what you can expect for next year. What are some exciting things happening for next year? So question number 1, I'm sure that this team has heard this. Everybody here knows how to answer this one, but this is the one that gives me gray hairs. Is SolarEdge a string inverter? This is question number 1 that we hear a lot. And I heard a new analogy the other day that I want to try on with this group. I think that it could work with homeowners. So if they say, I thought SolarEdge was a string inverter, one panel goes down, the whole panel or the whole system goes down. And so what really is a string inverter? And here's the analogy. Imagine if you're running a race, but you're tied to several other people. So like a 4-legged race. I don't think we've done it since we were kids, but a 4-legged race, what happens in that scenario? Yeah, okay, I see it here. You're always, for one, falling down for the most part, but you're always running at the pace of the slowest person, right? Because you're connected. And so even if there's a fast runner in that lineup, there's going to be somebody that doesn't keep up. And that's what's happening. That's the functionality of a string inverter, really, because they're all tied in a series and each panel's working at the lowest performing panel on that string. And so this is a new analogy we're thinking about in terms of, what is a string inverter and how that relates to SolarEdge. Of course, SolarEdge isn't a string inverter, but then we have this next question. And this is kind of question 1.5. So then SolarEdge has microinverters. Does SolarEdge have microinverters? Is SolarEdge a microinverter solution? I see people coming in here. No, optimized solution. That's great. You're totally right. SolarEdge is an optimized technology. This is taking the best of both worlds. I'm trying to use language, by the way, that we can use with homeowners to really illustrate this. So I hope that, and if any of it keys in, let me know. But I think we can say we're using the best of both worlds of a centralized inverter and a microinverter technology, in that we have an inverter on the wall, but we also have optimizers on the roof. So how does that compare? So a string inverter doesn't have smart technology on the roof. These small boxes, whether it's a microinverter or an optimizer, they're called module level power electronics. What that does for the roof is each module then will work independently from one another. But remember, with a string inverter, this is like that race we're running connected to several other people. There's no smart technology on the roof, so they're always limited to the lowest producing module. The microinverter takes that inverter that was on the wall, shrinks it down, puts it on each module, and allows each module to work independently, which is great news. The challenge here is that you're actually limited to the amount of power you can convert at each module. So it's interesting, and when I was selling, I absolutely did not know this. This was kind of a fun fact I learned when I came to SolarEdge, but with a microinverter solution, let's say you're using an IQ8 Plus, and you're pairing that with a 400 watt module. A lot of us are using these higher wattage modules now. So 400 watt module, we're talking to the homeowner about, we have premium high wattage modules for you. We're pairing that with an IQ8 Plus. Did you know that IQ8 Plus can only convert a maximum of 290 watts of that 400 watt module? So anything between 290 and 400, it's not going to happen. It's what's called clipped. We lose that potential. We lose that energy. So when you're selling a 400 watt module and pairing that with an IQ8 Plus, you're really selling the homeowner a 290 watt module, because that's the maximum potential that module is ever going to do. So what we want to do is we want to not convert the energy on the roof. We just want to move it around to make it advantageous for the homeowner. We want to get the maximum amount of energy possible from each module. So what we're doing is we're optimizing each module. Each module is working independently. If there's a shaded module, that's the only one that's going to be impacted. The rest of that string is not impacted. But we can also allow each module to reach its full potential. So if that's a 400 watt module, the maximum it's going to be able to do is 400 watts. I know many of you on this call that have been in solar for a long time are saying, well, the likelihood of that hitting 400 watts all day, every day is very slim. I agree with you. But we want it to reach its full potential. If the sun is hitting that roof at a great point and it has the potential to reach much more than 290 watts, we want it to do that. So all of these optimizers are allowing for that. What this equates to for your homeowners, and I know I've heard a lot of this team say, I have designed the same system size, with microinverters and SolarEdge and compared the two, and you see more production out of a SolarEdge system. It equates to about 10% more production on an annual basis for your homeowners. Same system size, but because of this technology, because we're not clipping at a module level, it's allowing us to have all these modules reach their full potential and really maximize what's going on the roof. We, of course, then convert at one central source, which is the inverter on the wall. We want to convert at one location so that we can really get the maximum efficiency. So that's what's happening. That's why we're not a string inverter. That's why we don't have microinverters. We like to call it an optimized solution. All right, next question. How do I properly size the inverter? Great question. We're getting it a ton. Good news here is, so quick show of hands, how many of us have a proposal tool that we use that automatically selects the inverter for us? Yep, okay, cool. So I'm seeing quite a few show of hands, and that is what's going to happen the bulk of the time. But what we're finding is sometimes sales reps want to know how to size the inverter because, say, for example, they need a second inverter, or they need a change order, and it seems like the inverter is not being selected properly. Sometimes it's just you want to make sure that the inverter that's selected, because there's so many in the drop down, is the right one. Just for your own knowledge, why do you have so many inverters on a drop down in the proposal tool? Totally agree. And the good news is it's pretty easy to size an inverter. So let's talk about how we do that. So there's two inverter types. One is going to be solar only. It's called an HD wave. Sometimes it's just going to, in your proposal tool, just going to be called SolarEdge or wave inverter. Just know that this is a solar only inverter. If this homeowner only wants to have solar, never wants to connect batteries, wants the lowest price solution for their home, this is the one to do. But just know that it's not flexible. That homeowner is not going to be able to add batteries later on. So that's our solar only. Sometimes we call it our vanilla inverter. And then we have our home hub, sometimes called energy hub in your proposal tool. But when you see the word hub, just remember hub equals flexible. And what that means is you can add batteries now or later. It also has a built-in production and consumption meter. So your homeowners on their My SolarEdge app can track how much the system's producing and how much their home's consuming at any given time. So it gives them more visibility. We're seeing a lot of people standardize on the hub inverter just because it's kind of inverter deluxe and it allows people to add things later. And of course, if you're thinking about batteries today, if you're selling batteries today, you have to have the home hub on the house. Okay, so those are the two things that you're going to look for first in your proposal tool. Do I need the solar only inverter, or am I looking for a hub inverter? That's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to see these numbers on each inverter type, right? And it's equating to these sizes over on this side, 3, 8, 5, 7, 7, 6, 10, and 11, 4. Here's the simple way to size an inverter. Quick math. Things we could have done probably in 4th grade. Inverter size, which are these numbers, times 1.4. That's the standard, what we call oversizing of all companies right now is 1.4. That's the standard. So in a lot of cases, you can use 1.4 just to get a quick estimate of what size you can put on the roof. So if you multiply the inverter size times 1.4, that's going to give you the maximum system size you can put on the roof. Okay, so let's just do a quick math here. Let's do the 10. That 10's easy. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Let's do it easy. If you have a 10 kW inverter, what is the maximum system size you can put on the roof using this equation? I know it's early. All right, good job, Bill. It's 11.4 kW. Okay, so if you're talking to a homeowner and they need an 11 kW solar system, you can use a 10 kW inverter. Okay, so that's how you would do it. 7.6 is probably our most popular inverter because it has quite a range. A 7.6, and we can do the math real quick. If you did 1.4 times 7.6, what would that give you? Yep, 10.6 kW. So a lot of times that's the inverter that people are using. Quick note here, and this is a kind of a cool note, is if you have a battery on your solar system, you can actually put more solar on even a smaller inverter. You can take that 7.6, 10, 11.4. If you have a battery on that system, you can double that number. So that would mean on a 7.6 inverter, if you stick a battery on it, you can put 15.2 kW of solar on the roof. And that's simply because we can charge the battery with DC power. So we'll talk about that just in a little bit. But so 1.4 is just the standard. If you want to go safe and you're looking for a really quick math to figure out the system size on the roof, that's how to do it. So I have an example of what this might look like in the proposal tool, because just wanted to key in, sometimes this is what it looks like. SolarEdge Energy Hub 3800. And you might be saying, well, you just told us that it was 3.8. Now it's saying 3800. All this means is it's in watts. Okay, so all you have to do is just move the decimal point 3 to the left and you'll get that 3.8. Okay, so this one, what's the maximum system size you can put on the roof in this scenario if you have a 3800 or a 3.8 inverter? What are we thinking? Ooh, yep, okay, so great job. So this is 3.8 times 1.4, 5.3, right? So that would be the maximum system size. If you had this inverter selected, that would be the maximum system size you put on that. Okay, great question in the chat box here. We often install 15.5 kW systems on a 10 kW inverter in Canada. This is because the max inverter size we can install is a 10. Is that okay? So great question here. Absolutely, it's okay. Our inverters can go up to 155%. So that would be your, 10 times 1.55 would give you that 15.5 kW system. You can absolutely do that. What we find, especially with like PPA products or even just standard proposal tools, sometimes it'll just put them in as 1.4, and a lot of times we use that as the standard. But Alicia, you're totally right. You can do 15.5 on that 10 inverter. Yeah, great question here. Is there a minimum? Is there a minimum to keep the efficiency up? So on a 3.8, how much solar would you need? So you always have to have 8 modules. Always make sure that you have 8 modules on that system. And so with a 3.8, you know, if you have 8 modules and it's a 400 watt module, that would be, you know, 3.2 kW of solar. But you always want to have the 8 modules minimum. And in terms of putting a smaller solar system on a larger inverter, that's the question we get a lot is, well, what if I have a 7 kW, but I put a 10 kW inverter, like 7 kW solar system, but I put a 10 kW inverter on the house. Is that okay? Because maybe this homeowner wants to add more solar later. That is fine. If the homeowner wants to add solar on later, then that's fine. Remember, you can oversize a bit. So if that homeowner wants a 7 kW and you put a 7.6 on that house, 7.6 inverter on the house, remember you can go up to the 11.4 or the 15.2 kW if you're doubling it with a battery. So there's still flexibility if you put a smaller inverter on. But if you're going with the bigger inverter, that's fine. Just think about it as like if you're buying too large of pants. Like if your pants are too big, and you know, it's kind of the same thing with a bigger inverter and a smaller solar system. But either way, it's fine. And usually you would put a smaller inverter just because of the availability of breaker space and the main service panel, and also the cost. You know, so a smaller inverter is a bit less expensive than the bigger inverters. So those are just the things to outweigh. Great questions. Okay, question number 3. What are the benefits of the SolarEdge home battery? I mean, every single day we're answering this question, but I think it's a broader question than that, especially now in our entire utility landscape. Because in 2023, and I asked this question in the beginning, what's the best thing that happened to us in 2023? I would say that the dynamic rate schedules and the changes in utility policy was one of the more challenging things, right? Can everybody agree that happened to us in 2023? And it's expanding, but the good news is once you get your bearings on how to sell the value and time of use rates and dynamic rates, it becomes much easier. So what we're seeing is time of use rates are expanding nationwide. Dynamic rates are even coming into play that would say every single hour or half hour, the utility rate can change daily based on demand. This is already happening in other countries, and we're seeing considerations in other states here, like Arizona is one, and Nevada's thinking about it, where they want to base it on actual dynamic demand in their area. So let's say 8 o'clock in the morning today, we might be paying something different than 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So it's a bit different than what we're used to, but time of use is definitely coming into play more. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like for 2023 in terms of expanding, you know, time of use started in California, and now all of these states have now incorporated time of use. Additionally, decisions in decreasing the value of solar export is spreading too. Hawaii and California were really the bell cows for that, where they said, we're not going to give a high value for exporting your energy anymore, right? So that's what you've heard NEM 3 in Hawaii, it's called zero export. These other states are now considering the same thing and enacting some policies in that regard. For solar, this is not a huge problem. Why is that? Because we have batteries, right? And so for this team, there's so many batteries out in the market now, right? So it's important to know which one should I select? And for me, I feel really lucky to work at SolarEdge because we have a platform that we like to call DC optimized. But we have an entire platform that's on the DC side of the solar system. This is really important because, again, it means efficiency. It also means that we have all of these components that are talking to each other. So the other day I had this customer say, well, I want to, get a SolarEdge inverter, but I want to put a Tesla Powerwall on it because I have a Tesla car. Of course, homeowners equate having a Tesla car to wanting a Tesla battery, which, as we know, is not that connected. But I asked the customer, have you ever tried to export photos from an Android onto a Mac computer? And they were like, no, why would I do that? I have a Mac computer, I have an iPhone, and it's all through the cloud. I have an iPad, so I can open up my photos on any of those devices. And that's really what happens in these ecosystem type things. When you have an ecosystem like SolarEdge Home, and you can add all of these components that talk to each other, it's making seamless decisions for your homeowners on what's most advantageous for them. And that's what you want, because you want to incorporate high efficiency, more production, and the ability to make intelligent decisions in these dynamic rate schedules to where the battery can say, hey, inverter, I'm going to go ahead and discharge all of my power into the house because the homeowner needs this because their utility rates are really high right now. Or I'm going to charge the battery and the EV instead of sending to the grid. These are all decisions that are being made for the homeowner with an ecosystem that talks to each other. Okay, so that's why you want to have one that talks to each other. And with us, we have 3 different options. You can do full home backup. How many batteries can we add to one inverter? Yep, 3 batteries per inverter. 9 batteries per house. The homeowner needs it. So we have full home backup capabilities. Essential home backup, we're seeing most of the time 1 or 2 batteries. 2 batteries has become a lot more popular. So we have that option. And then we have rate saver. So this is consumption only battery. So in a NEM 3 environment, if your homeowner doesn't need any backup power, but wants to use that battery as a bucket to store their energy, because you have to, right? You don't want to export it to the grid. That allows them to have that in a cost-effective way and allows them to have a better return on investment. And we're actually seeing this rate saver product be incorporated into other states because there's more time of use and more non-advantageous export rates. So we're seeing this come into other states as well. And that's something we'll probably see a lot more in 2024. So one huge benefit to, I mentioned we're on the DC side, right? We have the inverter on the wall, and it's allowing us to stay in DC energy for a longer duration of time. Why is that important? Because it allows us to manipulate where that clean, unfiltered, direct current energy is going before it's processed to use in the house. Right, so we're able to really determine, okay, we're creating this energy from the roof, and do we want to put it into the home? Do we want to throw it into the battery first? What do we want to do with that energy to make it most efficient for the homeowner? And then we're converting it only one location, which allows us to be as efficient as possible. In a microinverter solution, you have multiple conversions that are happening. So we have microinverters on the roof. They're converting DC to AC automatically up on the roof. But did you realize that in order for the battery to actually work and send back to the home or to the grid, you actually have to convert 2 additional times. So you have to convert that AC energy back to DC to charge the battery. And then you have to, of course, convert that DC energy back to AC to use it. So this is just the functionality of what we call a DC coupled solution versus an AC coupled solution. The difference for your homeowners is about 6.5% efficiency gain on our side. So essentially bigger battery. Your homeowners really have a bigger battery in this case because it's a more efficient battery. We also put everything on the DC side, and it allows us to put less strain on the main service panel. So when you stack up all these things, solar, battery, EV charger, onto a home, a lot of times it requires a main panel upgrade. I would say most of the time requires a main panel upgrade. And with SolarEdge, because we are wiring all of this into the inverter, it allows us to avoid a lot of those. So we're sharing a breaker with that inverter, which is really helpful in avoiding main panel upgrades. But to me, the most important part, and as I mentioned in the beginning, is that this entire ecosystem talks to each other and makes decisions for your homeowners. So your homeowners also have the visibility on what's happening. So they can see how much solar is producing and where it's going. Is it going to the battery, the car, the grid, the home, and how much they're producing, how much energy they're using in the house, and it'll follow them throughout the night. So we have different profiles that your homeowners can select. Maximize self-consumption, time of use rates, where they can just select exactly which time of use territory they're in, and it will discharge at advantageous times, or of course backup only mode. So this time of use and the self-consumption is really important when we're talking about, I don't want to say manipulating, but kind of manipulating the energy that we're producing on where it's going to make it advantageous for the homeowner. We have some really great questions coming into the chat box. So I'm going to pause and read those. So how are your sales reps handling the 3 battery mode settings with respect to giving homeowner control, especially in NEM 3? Yeah, it's a great question. And what I would say is, time of use rates is always going to be the one for California, because you can select PG&E NEM 3, and on the back end, it has that entire table built into it. And so there's an algorithm on our back end that will say, discharge into the house at this time versus keep the energy in the battery versus discharge to the grid at this time. If the homeowner is making more money than what they're paying, then it's going to automatically trigger a discharge into the house. And so that's going to do it automatically for the homeowner. And to me, it's very challenging to try and educate homeowners on how to manage their profiles. And so what we would rather do is just make them automatic for those homeowners. And so all they really need to select is time of use rate, PG&E, and it will automatically discharge at advantageous times. So I think that that's probably best case scenario in those circumstances. So this is live. Great question on my SolarEdge. And remember, this is the homeowner facing app. It updates about every 3 minutes. If you notice on this page, you'll see at the very top, it'll say when it was updated about 1 minute ago. That's what it says up at the top. And that is always what's going to happen on that app. Quick note here too, if you haven't yet downloaded the My SolarEdge app on your phone, I just got notification they were changing some of the demo sites on there for a couple of weeks and updating them. And the good news is the demo sites are back. So if you download the My SolarEdge app on your phone, then you'll be able to see at that main page, it looks like a login page. You don't have to log in. There's a big button at the bottom that says demo sites. I'd highly recommend looking at that, and even have your homeowners download My SolarEdge before they go solar, because they can see this interaction. It gets them excited about what's going to happen with their entire ecosystem. Okay, great question on changing the profile. Is it automatic or is it a hardware component? So if that homeowner does decide, okay, I don't want to use time of use anymore, I want to do maximize self-consumption and or backup only for some reason. And sometimes that does happen in some environments, let's say backup only mode, where the homeowner has a high risk of outages for a duration of time in the season. Can they change that? And it's all software based. So it can all be done through the app. It's not something that would cause a service person to have to go out to site and change something on the hardware side. So it's all software based through the cloud. One exciting thing about 2023 is it feels like virtually everything's done on the cloud. We live in a really good time. Okay, so let's talk about some exciting news this year for us. So probably the biggest thing is that we make residential inverters in Austin, Texas now. And if anybody is, by the way, just quick note, we do tours at the Austin facility. If anybody would be interested in going on tours, we have a standard schedule for tours and would love to sign you up to go take a look. I don't know if anybody's a factory nerd like I am, but I love going to factories and it's a really cool experience. So that is one of the bigger things that has happened to us this year. We're manufacturing our residential inverters there. It allows us to ship things a lot simpler. Of course, that domestic manufacturing is really important with the IRA, and that is something that we were able to jump on really quickly. In addition to that, we are building even stronger inverters. So middle of this year, we started really making extremely robust inverters, what we call automotive grade capacitors, really nerdy way of saying just stronger components in the inside of this inverter that allow for greater temperature thresholds, extended lifespans, protection against short duration voltage spikes or anything that could deteriorate the efficiency. Of course, all of these systems, all of these inverters have a 12-year standard warranty on them. You can extend it to 25 years for just a couple $100s. A lot of times homeowners want to do that. But as we go into an environment that has more extreme climate, hotter, colder, in some areas, extreme weather, hurricanes, those type of things, we definitely wanted to make these inverters as strong as possible to where we were confident to say, you can install this puppy outside and it would be completely fine. And so the quality of these inverters is extremely high. You're going to see really high reliability rates on inverters from like middle of this year going into next year. Reliability is paramount for all of us. All right. And I always like to reflect on this. So this was a really cool stat. So by 2023, and this actually, we hit this in the beginning of 2023, kind of in Q2, we were in 3.3 million homes around the world. SolarEdge systems are on 3.3 million homes, and we're installed on 50% of the Fortune 100 companies in large scale commercial. But what this means is that we were able to prevent the creation of 31 million metric tons of greenhouse gas every single year with these systems. And so, sometimes we forget we're in a industry that is making an entirely huge impact, every one of you. And it's interesting to do this math. Does anybody do this math for how many systems you have sold this year? I see some hands. I would highly recommend it. There's some calculators on online that you can do. And this really, as when I sold, pushed me to continue selling, even in tougher times. But the really interesting thing is that amount of greenhouse gas is the equivalent of taking 6.7 million gasoline-powered cars off the road permanently. Just for the heck of it, I looked up Texas to see how many cars, how many registered vehicles were in Texas. Just because it's a big state, how many registered cars are in Texas? Does anybody want to give a guess on, okay, we can take 6.7 million gas-powered cars off the road permanently with the impact we're making, how many gasoline-powered cars are even registered in the state of Texas? Bill says 40 million. I thought it was something high like that too. It is 7.1 million. So we actually have been able to take almost all of the cars off of the road in the state of Texas, which is very cool. And I do want to mention too, we have these questions a lot as well as what about waste and sustainability? 88% of the waste on our manufacturing sites is recycled or recovered. So we are very focused on recycling, sustainability, and this was just a cool stat. Sometimes homeowners love to hear it too, so definitely key in on this. All right. Now, looking forward into 2024, I do want to look at questions. Alicia has a great question here. What's the product name of the new inverters? So the inverters are not new. We've had the Home Hub and the Energy Hub, same inverter, Home Hub inverter, Energy Hub, sometimes it's called. We've had that for about 3 years, but that's the flexible inverter. So for batteries, that's the one you want to go with. Or if that homeowner wants to add batteries now or later, it has that built-in production and consumption. That's called the hub. So look for that on your tools. The HD Wave inverter, or sometimes it's just called Wave, is the solar only. So that's the one we've always had, vanilla inverter, just very basic for solar only. And as I mentioned, the hub is the one that people are really standardizing more on. All right. So looking forward into 2024, there's a couple of things that are exciting. One, load controllers, you're going to see it a lot more. This is a really inexpensive way to manage heavy loads in the home. So I know a lot of this team sells span panels and smart energy panels, which are really awesome. And we love to partner with them. For homeowners who need a lower cost solution, but want to back up their entire house for backup power, but you want to avoid a sub panel, like you don't want to have a sub panel and only do partial home backup. These load controllers, you put the controller on a heavy load, like an air conditioner or a pool pump or something like that, and it'll automatically shut those off in an outage. So instead of the conversation with homeowners that we always have is, what do you want to make sure is turned on in an outage? How many of us have had this conversation? Please select 5 or 6 loads type thing. These load controllers allow you to say, okay, Mr. Homeowner, we're going to back up your entire house. You're going to have the flexibility to turn on any device you need, but we're going to automatically turn off the heavy devices that are going to drain the battery quickly, like your air conditioner, your pool pump, your heater, those type of things. So this allows them to automatically have those things shut off in an outage. So we're going to see more of these load management devices, as we call them, in the new year. We'll have a lot more training on those as well. And then I think the most exciting one that we're all looking for is the bidirectional DC EV charger. Remember, bidirectional is really exciting, but I think DC is even more exciting, because what that means is we have that EV charger on the DC side. So this truly would mean that your homeowners can charge their car from direct PV energy, to say, we don't even want to convert that. We want to take that unfiltered energy and we want to charge the car with it. Or we want to charge the battery with it before we convert it to use it in the house. So it means even higher efficiency when it comes to the entire ecosystem of products. And bidirectional, if this team hasn't gotten dorky and read all of the articles about it, would mean that you can actually charge your car, but then you can take that car and power the home with it in an outage scenario. So why would anybody want to do that? Well, a fun fact is the car battery is much larger than what our home solar battery would be. Does anybody know the average size of a car battery, an electric vehicle battery? Somebody said 7 kilowatt hours. Nick says 100 kilowatt hours. Yes. So an EV car will have a battery that's like 70 kilowatt hours to 100 kilowatt hours in that vehicle, that one battery. And what size is our solar battery? 10 kilowatt hours. So it would be like having, 10 batteries on a house in that car. What I think we're going to see, and this is kind of the predictions of everybody in the industry currently, is that it's going to be a supplement to the solar battery. So think about this as a consumer. Maybe you live in an area that has pretty consistent outages, and you usually will have a generator. So I'm looking at you, Florida, Texas, places like that. You'll have a big generator that you usually use. This is going to be the alternative to that, where you have a solar system. Maybe you have 1 or 2 solar batteries on the house, and you have a bidirectional EV charger because you have a Ford F-150 Lightning, okay? And what that means is you have 2 solar batteries that are going to be your automatic, power to your house that's going to have no interruptions. If the power goes down, then your home will have a automatic source of power, which is that home battery. And then you can utilize your car as that second peace of mind that a generator would normally be if you need additional power. And we're probably going to see that kind of scenario because you're not going to be using your car battery for self-consumption, time of use rates, that type of thing. You don't want to discharge that battery every single day because it does degrade the life. But also, in an outage scenario, this would mean that you would have to have the car plugged in, ready to charge the house, that type of thing. And so the solar batteries allow you to have an automatic source of power, and then you can have your car battery as that backup plan B if you needed more power. Okay, so those are really exciting things coming down the pipe. Of course, the question is always estimated time of the bidirectional charger. I would say middle of next year to probably Q3 is where we're going to see this readily available in market. So keep your eyes peeled. The load controllers are available. So we will have additional training and stuff on that in January, and those are going to be available to everybody beginning of the year. Okay, a couple of things here. We do have new certifications on Edge Academy for sales reps. So I don't know about you, but during the winter months, it's usually me wanting to do some holiday cards, getting some referrals from customers, making cookies, and making sure that I have my referral base going. But it's a little bit slower, maybe, of a time for business, and so it's a really good time to do trainings. So there's new certifications in Edge Academy for salespeople. We also have new videos on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to our SolarEdge North America YouTube channel, I'd highly recommend that. And then we have our Sales Elite Facebook group. A lot of reps talk to me through that Facebook group because we can answer questions immediately. We have a team of people that are on that Facebook group all the time answering questions from reps. And I do also want to put in the chat box this landing page that has a ton of sales resources for you. So I get a lot of questions about, do you have any brochures? Do you have any images? Those type of things, and it's all in there. I just put it in the chat, and that is that's kind of our portal for all selling tools. So that's all I had today, but great questions, everybody. I want to make sure that we answered all of those. If you have any more, please put them in the chat box because we do have a couple more minutes here. thank you also for giving the feedback on what you'd like to see in trainings next year. Again, if you have any more requests on what kind of trainings you want to see, what kind of webinars you want to see, please throw them in there. Would love to get your perspectives. Okay, I think we got, let's see, I think we got everybody all handled on here. Okay, everybody, have a great holiday season. Thank you for being a part of this morning. And if you need anything, please reach out. I put my email in the chat box. One more question here. To confirm, the bidirectional EV charger will work with the home hub inverter? Yes, that is correct. Great questions. Thank you for your participation. And we will talk later on. If you need anything, please reach out. I will send all these resources right after this. So please take a look, keep an eye out for an email later today with all of these resources. We'll talk soon. Happy holidays.